All right, man, peace. You know, for most of you brothers who watch my basketball videos on YouTube, you know that I make certain statements about James Harden, a.k.a. James Hardhead, as well as his new partner in arms or partner in crime, per se, Russell Westbrook, a.k.a. Russell Westbrick. I make comments about both of those brothers because I understand who and what they are. If you've watched NBA basketball for long enough, you know that there are certain characters who are brought into the NBA every generation who are meant to fulfill a certain role or a certain archetype. James Harden is the 2010s version of Dominique Wilkins, of Bernard King, of Carmelo Anthony. Players who are just going to score a lot of points, but they don't have the championship gene. Many years ago, Skip Bayless came up with a slogan that he applied to LeBron James called the clutch gene, in which he stated that in his view, certain athletes are inherently born with the ability to come through in big moments, and he stated that LeBron James does not have that gene. Whether you agree with or disagree with his assertion or not, I definitely believe that there is such a concept or such a thing as the clutch gene. I also believe that there's such a thing as the championship gene. And let me also state this, I would love to see James Hardhead and Russell Westbrook win the championship this year or next year. I think that it would be a great nuance added to the NBA if they could win a championship this year or next year. Why do I say that? Because every NBA basketball expert, quote unquote expert or pundit, and their mother is predicting that the incumbent NBA champion this year is going to come out of LA, whether it be the Lakers or the Clippers. Do I necessarily agree with that? As of right now, that seems to be likely. But would it surprise me if the Rockets were to come out of the Western Conference and win the championship? No, it would not. Because they have everything it takes. Their issue is going to be basketball IQ. Once again, that is why I call James Harden James Hardhead. That's why I call Russell Westbrook Russell Westbrick. Their basketball IQ is terrible. They have no plan B, much less a plan C, D, or E, which most championship teams are going to have. They're going to have a plan B, C, or D. They have a hell of a plan A. When you have a Russell Westbrick and a James Hardhead, they're going to be a great plan A. But I believe that once again, we're going to find out in those pivotal moments that James Harden does not have the championship gene. I'm bringing all of this up because he decided that he was going to have an interview with Stephen A. Smith and state that this year they're going to win the championship, which he should. Because he and Westbrick are both, 30, 31 years old? So they know that they're at the end, or they're near the beginning of the end of their prime. I say they have this year and maybe the next 2 years left of being players who are as impactful as we expect them to be before they fall off the cliff. And James Harden has a body made to fall off the cliff. I mean, he looks like as soon as he retires, he's going to turn into a damn Goodyear blimp. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
The best scorer of his generation.
Equally deadly from all spots on the floor, James Harden.
When people talk about your game, what is it about their critique of your game that you believe people don't get right, that they've misconstrued, that they...
Now pay very close attention to how he answers this question, because it's going to once again reinforce the notion that James Harden, he has no awareness of who he is as a person or as a player, which is something that you should expect when you're dealing with someone who is a quote-unquote egomaniac, or the term that is gaining popularity today, a narcissist. Let's just pay very close attention to how he answered this question. I'm going to rewind this back a little bit.
When people talk about your game, what is it about their critique of your game that you believe people don't get right, that they've misconstrued, that they've gotten
Everything.
everything?
Yeah. Or he's looking for
Even Stephen A. Smith is shocked.
calls, or he flops, or this style of play can't win, or...
All that shit is true so far. So how could that be a misconception or misperception? I'm going to rewind it back one more time.
When people talk about your game, what is it about their critique of your game that you believe people don't get right, that they've misconstrued, that they've gotten
Everything. Yeah. Or he's looking for foul calls, or he flops, or this style of play can't win, or, well, in the system of basketball, well, if a team is running an offense, who do you want to have the ball in your hands in the game, or through the game? Your best player.
I do watch.
So James, what you're trying to tell us is that you don't look for foul calls, you don't flop, and you're not someone who wants to have the ball in your hands in every moment of every game, making your offense extremely predictable. And you also say that people claim that your style of play does not win championships. So far, you guys have not won a championship. So what exactly is your protest or your issue against what people say? If you want to disprove them, you're going to have to win.
Seeing how unstoppable you are as a one-on-one player. And what I say consistently is that in a best 4 of 7, you're going to need more than that in order to win the championship, essentially. To that, you say what?
You look at 2 years ago, we played one-on-one ISO ball, and we were a game away from the finals. Last year, our roster, we just didn't have enough.
That's a shot at Chris Paul. But let's pay very close attention to what he stated. He said 2 years ago, we almost made it to the finals. Well, for all intents and purposes, the reason why most basketball aficionados, fans, viewers, etc. claim that you guys did not make it to the finals, at least those of you who are rooting for you to make it to the finals claim this, is because you lost Chris Paul. Those of us who are paying very close attention know that Chris Paul's loss just offset the Warriors' loss of Iguodala, because I promise you, even though people did not understand it at the time, Andre Iguodala was just as important to the Warriors, if not more, than Chris Paul was to the Rockets. And then he comes back and says the next season we lost because we just did not have enough talent. What he's really saying is that Chris Paul fell off the cliff from 2018 to 2019. That still makes no sense because the Warriors did not have KD at the end of Game 5 and Game 6. So James Harden has issues with accountability, which shows poor leadership, which shows that he's someone who is extremely recalcitrant. He's someone who has a hard time changing who he is. He's obstinate. And that's the main reason why he has so many problems adjusting to adverse conditions or adverse situations. And championship level players know that they have to adjust.
It's not about me one-on-one. It's not about our system and our style of play.
No, actually, it is about you one-on-one, James Harden. And that's why when you go to the playoffs, you don't get to play one-on-one. You play 1 against 3. You don't adjust, and you end up losing to a team that's smarter than you. All of that regular season stuff is fool's gold. We've seen James Harden score 48 points, 51 points, 60 points against this team, that team, every other team. He gets to the playoffs, these other teams adjust, and he doesn't. He's playing on a playoff level of intensity in the regular season. And I don't think that people understand that, but it's a part of the overall NBA narrative. It's a part of the NBA aspect of it being kind of like a soap opera. There are certain characters that we watch, and we know that when they're placed in certain conditions, they're going to do the same thing. So is James Harden's ceiling or his optimum level of play good enough to make it to the NBA Finals or win a championship? Because we're seeing it during the regular season. He's not going to get any better in the playoffs. People think that he falls off. It's not so much that he falls off, it's that these other teams that he's playing against adjusted his style of play, and he does not have any further that he can go to as far as his playing abilities.
In order to win or have an opportunity to win this league, you got to have players and you got to have talent. And last year we just didn't have enough. 2 years ago we had a chance. Unfortunate injuries happened. And
I have to ask you a question though, James Harden. What was the biggest difference between 2018 to 2019 where you could say that last year you did not have enough talent, other than Chris Paul and you losing Trevor Ariza? Are you saying that Trevor Ariza is the reason why you lost to the Golden State Warriors the last 2 games without KD?
this year, we're going to run it again.
Last year, after you had lost to the Golden State Warriors, it was the 4th time 5 years that you got.
And we're not losing to no regular team.
That's right.
So, I mean, what you want me to do?
Right.
What do you want me to do? Let me find out James Harden choking on his own beard hair. I mean, give me a fucking break, man. If you consider yourself a championship contender, you're going to have to beat championship quality teams. The Golden State Warriors, if he was trying to allude to the Warriors being a quote-unquote super team, they were only a super team from 2016 to 2019. And you played them twice. You didn't play them all 3 years. In 2017, you lost to the San Antonio Spurs when you had a complete mental breakdown in Game 6. Now, those other 2 seasons when you were able to face the Warriors in the playoffs in 2018 and 2019, the Rockets were viewed as being the team that had the best chance to beat them. And let's not forget that the Warriors defeated the Rockets twice before KD got there, in 2015 and 2016. So if James Harden's trying to use the excuse that we lost to the Warriors because they had KD, that's nonsense. They really only lost to the Warriors with KD for a whole series 1 time, and that was in 2018. In 2019, everyone thought the Rockets were going to be able to finally get over the hump when KD went down. Steph Curry took over. They go Tango and Cash, James Hardhead and Russell Westbrook. Either going out in the first round or getting all the way to the NBA championship. Who the hell knows with these two?
So far this season, when you talk about...
Oh boy. Russell Westbrook and James Hardhead, a.k.a. the NBA version of Dumb and Dumber, a.k.a. Tango and Cash.
Russell Westbrook being a member of this team, what kind of adjustment, if any, have you specifically had to make?
I haven't made any.
Of course you don't. You never make adjustments. You just play how you play. That's why you're not going to win a championship unless there's some form of divine providence when you guys get to the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe there'll be an avenue that opens up for the Rockets. Certain teams have avenues that open up for them where they're able to win a championship that one season. But due to the fact that they have such poor basketball IQ, I just don't see it.
You know, I try to find spots for us to get him going or whatnot. And I just try to put myself in his shoes. You know, he's obviously had a franchise for the last 12 years, so I don't want to make it I want to make it as comfortable for him as I can, and then I'll just figure everything else out, which normally happens. But it's only, like I said, it's been 10 games, so far so good.
James Hardhead is one of those guys that if they were to make the NBA Finals, he wouldn't know what to do with himself if Russell Westbrook was the player that won the NBA Finals MVP as opposed to him. There are so many idiosyncratic issues and unseen things, certain characteristics that are intangible that make up why certain teams win championships and why certain players are championship level players. Steph Curry, Dwayne Wade are able to do things psychologically and mentally that James Harden could never do. And I'm not saying that he necessarily should do that, because one would probably say that James Harden is the overall more impactful and better player than Russell Westbrook. But if the roles were reversed and Westbrook were the better player, would James Harden have the largesse or the generosity to say to himself, let me divest control of the team over to Westbrook? I just don't think that he would have that. His ego is too out of control.
Different dynamic. Something that I haven't had since obviously I was in Oklahoma City.
Steal, and Westbrook is on the freeway. Russell Westbrook has taken over the game.
That's on the court. Off the court is just different. You know, I've been knowing Russ since I was 10 years old, so he brings that energy and that friendship that can carry on the court as well.
You saw Kawhi Leonard and Paul George go to the Los Angeles Clippers. You saw LeBron get AD added to the Lakers. Houston appeared to be an afterthought.
Nobody's really talking about us. They're talking about them two teams in LA.
No, they've been talking about you. Skip Bayless and other people have been talking about the Houston Rockets. As a matter of fact, Skip Bayless likes the Rockets' chances of getting to the NBA Finals. I'll say this about the Rockets, and I've mentioned this in other videos pertaining to what I believe an accurate prognostication of their team's chances could be. I think they have the widest gulf in between possibly winning a championship and maybe even getting knocked out in the first round, depending on what their team chemistry is like circa playoff time.
You know, and the team in Milwaukee, you know, we playing it cool.
Do you like it that way?
Yeah, I love it that way.
You like people quiet, not talking about y'all at all?
I love it.
Because?
Underdogs. You know, nobody, let them talk about them. We don't need no attention.
In my opinion, this is the greatest opportunity you've had to win a championship in your career in Houston.
Facts.
Do you believe that?
Facts. 100%.
Does that mean y'all going to deliver?
Take advantage of the opportunity.
Are you saying you're going to do it, or you need to do it?
I am. We are.
James Harden and the Houston Rockets going to win the championship.
Correct.
We'll see. Bold words. When you get there, there are going to be certain moments where James Harden is facing off against Kawhi Leonard, facing off against LeBron James. It's going to be a litmus test of exactly where we slot James Harden. And I'm sure that cats will say, what are you talking about? James Harden just scored 47 points on the Clippers last night. When I watched that game, the Clippers looked like they were playing at half speed, honestly. They were playing at half speed with a regular season defensive game plan against James Harden. Kawhi Leonard was even missing defensive assignments. That's not going to be how things look or how they transpire in the playoffs.
Shit.
Let's get it. My brother.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back
fucking Tracy McGrady right here. You heard him. He basically said, Kawhi, so what? LeBron, so what? We gonna win a championship in Houston. Do you believe him? And if so, what do they have to do to get it done?
No, I do not believe him.
Good for you, T-Mac. I don't believe them either, but I would not be shocked if the Rockets were to win an NBA championship this year, because I think that it's so wide open. There are certain teams that are playing at a playoff level of intensity in the regular season, the Lakers being one of them. And I think that when the Lakers get to the playoffs and things get ratcheted up, I still think that they're going to be able to get through the first couple of rounds just due to the experience that they have as an overall team with LeBron and Rondo. Even Anthony Davis has a little bit of playoff experience. He's gotten to the second round once. Also, they have Dwight Howard, who's been to the NBA Finals. So when they square off against a team like a Utah or a Denver, even if those teams might have fresher legs, I think that I would probably pick the Lakers to defeat them in a 6 or 7 game series because of their experience. But would it shock me if the Lakers got knocked out by any one of those teams in the playoffs, the Rockets, Denver, or Utah? No. We'll see. It's pretty much going to be a free-for-all. That's why there's so much anticipation for the NBA playoffs this year in 2020, or when 2020 rolls around.
I believe this team right here has what it takes, and I'm talking about the Clippers. With Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and the Clippers. I mean, I just think defensively, they where they need to be a championship team. Offensively, they need to be where they are. And for the Rockets, offensively, we know they're a great scoring team. Defensively, they're 26th in the league. That's not going to win you a championship. They got to tighten up defensively. I'm not worried about them offensively. I am worried about them defensively, though.
Appreciate you so much, man. Thanks so much. Always good.
I agree with your deductions, T-Mac. But anyway, peace.